Hello, hello, hello. This is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to talk about Tesla AI Day. We're going to talk about, we're doing a Patreon question and answer session. We're going to do full self-driving 9.1 and more. We're going to talk about Comma.ai, if you don't know, is a potential competitor in self-driving to Tesla. They just had a big event yesterday. We're going to talk about Spacex. We're going to talk about Neuralink, and we're going to do a chat Q&A. Thank you to Mark Plott and Carl Stockmal and all the moderators. Thanks to everyone for watching. This is an unusual live stream. I am not home. My home internet is down. My neighbor, who I thanked on Twitter, and maybe I'll put a link to her in the description below later. Heather Kane, who I've interviewed in the past, offered to let me use their house and their Wi-Fi. My neighbors Heather and Jeremy. The thumbnail image is an old picture of me from 2005-ish. A bunch of people have mentioned that. Hey, it's what I had available. I don't have good internet, so it's hard for me to get everything done. But I'm here on my laptop instead of my desktop. I'm using a lavalier mic instead of my normal Blue Yeti mic. I don't have everything, but we'll see how it goes. Let's see how everything goes. Yes, nice haircut. Thank you, Mark. Very much appreciated. Okay, so let's start with AI Day. Let's see if I can read this. Whole Mars Catalog, Omar Kazi was tweeting with Elon back and forth. Elon had announced that AI Day will be August 19th. I have requested permission to attend. AI Day. I don't know whether I'll be invited or not, but I did let my contact at Tesla know I want to come. Elon said, let's see, Whole Mars blog said that he's 90% sure Tesla will pull off robo-taxis. Elon said it should be clear to anyone who's experienced the FSD beta revolution. Self-driving cars are a major part of real-world AI, and AI Day is going to be great. And then Omar asked, will you reveal more details about Dojo at AI Day? And Elon said a lot. This is a big deal. This is a big deal for a lot of reasons. Dojo matters for more than just self-driving. Dojo is going to be, or is already perhaps, an AI training supercomputer. If you follow ARK Invest, I am an investor in ARK Invest. It's a exchange traded fund. Kathy Wood is the head of ARK. I invested in ARK, ARKK. Kathy and the ARK Invest put out a white paper called Big Ideas, and they talked about how AI training. I'm in a guest room. The lighting is not great. Hey, this is not special. So Kathy Wood and ARK Invest talked about AI training, separate from Tesla, that AI training was going to be a big new field, that if you follow software is traditionally written by humans. I've been writing code. Don't write code anymore, but I started writing code in the mid-1970s when I was in middle school. And handwritten code is how almost all computers work, how almost everything we do that uses computers, whether it's in your car or in your computer at home, almost everything you deal with that's computerized is using handwritten code. And there's a transition happening where it turns out that neural networks can often do a better job of programming effectively machines to work better than humans can write the code. And at the moment, this much of the world is code, and this small part of it is neural networks, is neural network code. But neural network is growing. Neural network code is eating human, or neural network programming is eating human code. And we see this the most in Tesla self-driving cars, that originally there was pretty much handwritten code in Autopilot 1, and over time they've expanded and developed neural networks, and the neural networks are learning more and more, and they are training the car to drive. And neural networks are taking over more and more of the functions of making the car go forward and right and left and stop and backward. So over time, all that is happening. But the world of software is much, much bigger than self-driving cars. There's so many different ways that this stuff matters. I'm just looking at the comments here. So audio isn't good. I can't make the audio better. I'm using a lavalier mic. It looks good on my thing. I can make it louder probably, but is the audio too quiet, or does it just not sound good? Who said that? Mr. Spaha. Mr. Spaha says the audio isn't as good. No, the audio is not going to be as good because I'm not using my super awesome Blue Yeti mic, because that would have been awkward here. I'm using a lavalier mic. This is my microphone. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Okay, don't worry about it. Thank you. Thank you, Simonis. So, we have this whole world, and much of our world has been taken over by software. And right now, only a small part of our world is using neural network code, but that's going to change over time. And the way neural networks learn and do better and replace human coding is through training. That you expose the software, that you expose it to a problem, whatever it is that you're trying to get it to do, and it sends data back to the main office, to the training computer, where the training computer then looks at all the data and figures out how to train it better. And so AI training is, according to ARK Invest, and I think this sounds credible, it's going to expand to a much larger share of the world's software, which itself is a growing market. So there's this huge, huge, huge market for AI training. Tesla is developing what may be the most powerful, and probably is the most powerful, AI training supercomputer in the world. And in about a year, it'll be mostly done with its task of training self-driving to do better, and then it will be looking for work. And this is a $100 billion market, maybe a $1 trillion market of AI training that Dojo will be able to offer similar services to other companies that need AI training done. That's what I think is coming. Really exciting to see that. Carl, I think Omar was just being conservative when he said 10% chance it won't work. I think he thinks there's a 99% chance or higher that Tesla's going to solve FSD. So, so that's the big news. So what's going to happen at AI Day? AI Day is August 19th. What I think we're likely to see, if you look back at Autonomy Day, I think AI Day is going to be a lot like Autonomy Day. You are going to have somebody from the hardware side talking about the hardware and the FSD chip. Maybe they're going to talk about the next generation FSD chip. Maybe. I don't know. The FSD, what was then considered FSD4, I don't know what they're calling it now. Not clear whether they're going to deploy that chip or not, but it seems likely that it was paired with Dojo. So I think we're going to hear about the chip that goes in the car, which is called the inference chip, that is trained by the training computer and applies the training, and basically a whole bunch of pixels come in through the cameras, and the AI computer uses its training to take the input and spit out, go forward, go right, go left, speed up, slow down, back up, and whatever other instructions it needs. Turn on the signal, all different kinds of things that it does to operate the car. So we're going to we may learn something about the hardware in the next generation chip that goes in the car. The bigger thing is we're going to learn about the training supercomputer Dojo, which Elon says we're going to cover that a lot. I think we're also going to hear about applications for AI training. I should say I want to thank the Vasa law firm in Sweden. Unfortunately, I don't have my little logo for them, but I want to thank the Vasa law firm in Sweden and all my Patreon supporters for helping this channel grow. We're going to do a Patreon Q&A next. So we'll also hear about applications for AI training, and I don't think it's just going to be self-driving cars. I think they're going to talk about other potential applications for Dojo and for AI training. And what else? Because Elon has said that he thinks AI could end up being a third business for Tesla, comparable to cars and energy, and then a third business could be AI. And AI training and providing AI services could be a big, big business for Tesla, worth literally hundreds of billions of dollars a year in revenue in the long run, and maybe not that far away. So I think that's all I have about AI Day for now. I might do a full video in anticipation of AI Day, but the truth is I think we just don't know a lot yet about AI Day. What we know is what we knew before Autonomy Day, which is not a lot. We had no idea what was coming on Autonomy Day. If you watched the Autonomy Day video, like your hair was blowing back with all the new information that we didn't see coming. And keep in mind that the purpose of AI Day is not so much to inform us fans or investors, although that's certainly a purpose. The purpose of AI Day is to recruit. If you are interested in doing artificial intelligence work, the coolest place in the world to do that is at Tesla. So that's an opportunity. If you're interested in that, that's what it's there for. Sorry, I've got an ice pack for my laptop and I don't think I need it, so I'm taking it out and I can put it back later. Sometimes when I live stream with my laptop in the past, my laptop would heat up really hot, and I just try to check it once in a while to see how it's doing. So, um, so battery day, there was a lot of innovation that we didn't see coming. We all had some idea what was coming. There were hints of a 4680 cell, but there was some like tabless design, the silicon in the anode. There were so many little details. The dry battery electrode we kind of saw coming, but there was so much in battery day we didn't see coming. There was so much in autonomy day we didn't see coming. So I think there's going to be a lot in AI day that like I can tell you what I think might happen, but the reality is we can't see it coming. So Nabor, I'm sorry you're having trouble with the microphone, with hearing me, but everyone else has said they can hear me fine. So it is not, my microphone is not as good as usual, and that's just the way it's got to be. So I think that's it for AI Day. Let's move on. We're going to do the Patreon Q&A. Thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you are a Patreon supporter or a YouTube exclusive content channel member, and I'm not sure I'm going to get to the, if YouTube channel members, I'll try to check that. I do a Q&A. I take those questions first in the Q&A, and I start off with a Patreon Q&A right now. So Mark asks, Mark is always the first person to ask questions in the Patreon Q&A. He said, my thoughts on the Tesla AI Day reveal. Is Dojo operational? Will FSD soon be publicly released? I think I pretty much covered AI Day and the opening. FSD will soon be publicly released. I think that FSD will be publicly released, as in if you bought FSD, you will have FSD in your car before the end of this year. Optimistically, October. Maybe in my dreams, September, but more likely October, November, December, somewhere in there. If you paid for FSD, you will have what is currently FSD beta, advanced FSD beta version 10 or FSD beta version 11. You will have that in your car by the end of the year. Could be wrong, but I think it's coming. And what will Dojo be worth after FSD is conquered? That's a good question. I kind of talked about that. I think we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars a year in revenue. Mark asks, will FSD beta improvements be released every 3 weeks? I'm covering that in the next segment, but Elon said every 2 weeks. I'm talking about the size of the Austin factory soon. I'm going to be talking about, I'll try to cover superchargers. I'm going to get to the rest of the questions later. Let me move on. I like to do a few Patreon questions early, but let me move on to the next topic, which is FSD version 9.1, which was released. I watched hours of video of people driving FSD version 9.1. I did not think it was that overwhelming. The buzz is audible if you have a great sound system. Let me see if I can change. I can't change the mic. It's too complicated to change the mic because I have 7 different screens that I have to change in every one. So I'm sorry if there's a buzz. I'm sorry if the sound isn't great. I'm operating under circumstances. I got to do what I got to do. Maybe I should have brought my Blue Yeti mic. I don't know. So first thing, just in response to Mark's question, James Locke, who is one of the FSD beta testers whose videos I watched, was very impressed with FSD beta version 9.1, said it was extremely impressive, and he asked if next release would be in 2 weeks, and Elon said they will be doing releases every 2 weeks on Friday midnight California time. So they now have a schedule. They are making progress on FSD. It is improving, and they are on a regular schedule. I don't think Dojo is doing the training yet, because Andrej Karpathy just talked about how they added a third computer that wasn't Dojo, but maybe Andrej was playing games. So anyway, every 2 weeks, if you are an FSD beta tester, you're going to see a new release. I think Elon said that he expects version 10 to be coming in a few weeks. Maybe not the next 2 week thing. Next 2 week thing, Elon said there's always a lot of cleanup after a major code release, still some fundamentals to solve for beta 10. He said beta 9.2 will be tight. So let me just talk really quickly about 9.1. I watched a bunch of videos. I noticed one particular improvement. If you watched the early 9.0 videos, there was this pattern of the vehicles would drive through a flashing yellow light, and as they approached a flashing yellow light, they would slow down abnormally compared to what a human driver would do. I asked James Dauma on Twitter. James Dauma is an AI expert, seems to know a lot about self-driving cars. I've interviewed him once. Been interviewed by Dave Lee a lot. James, my theory is that the slowing down for the flashing yellow light was human coded. And it seems to have gotten better in version 9.1. There was a lot less of it slowing down for flashing yellow lights in version 9.1. I was watching Chuck Cook. He's Chazman on Twitter, Chazman on Twitter. And I think it's Chuck Cook is his YouTube channel. And he has some videos. And there was one particular intersection that he's always had this problem, and that problem is still there, that there's a red light for going straight, and there's a green arrow to turn right. And he's trying to go straight, and the car is reading the green arrow to go turn the green right turn arrow, and it thinks it can go straight. It stops, and then it tries to go, and he has to intervene. And he did it 2 or 3 times in a row. So anyway, so let's see. So anyway, Elon said that there's still some fundamentals to solve for beta 10. So my guess is that that means beta 10 is not happening in 2 weeks, and it's probably not happening in 4 weeks. So we're probably, he says, because they're using pure vision, radar is no longer slowing down the improvements. It's happening faster. So we're in late July now. I think the end of August is probably a little optimistic for beta 10. So I would say sometime in September, we're going to see beta 10. I think after beta 10, we're going to see version 11, and version 11 might be good enough that they release it to the public after they test it on the beta testers. And so that would be hopefully by the end of this year, which has been pretty consistent with my projections all along, that I think that they're going to get FSD cracked by the end of this year, and then we're going to see Robo taxis somewhere sometime in 2022. Elon also said the Tesla AI predictions are swiftly becoming superhuman. Its guesses for what it can't see well feel like ESP, extrasensory perception, supernatural ability to perceive things. It has a vastly larger training set than any human and thinks only about driving. So it's a very, very powerful computer. It has much more data that we have, and it spends all its time thinking about driving. So it's we're seeing a lot of progress there. So there's a lot of good news with that. And then the other thing that's just worth noting is, and this is not about FSD, but I put it here because I didn't make a separate thing for Tesla. Elon was at Giga Texas yesterday. The team is making excellent progress. Building will be almost a mile long when complete. It's amazing how big. It's amazing how big Giga Texas is. Somebody else said he drove by and they did this. There's this video. If you look at Elon's tweets and replies, you'll find this video from Aaron Joel George on Twitter, driving by the factory. It's unbelievable how big Giga Texas is. And Elon said the building is 7 stories tall, so each floor is double size. It's hard to appreciate unless you're close to the building. In other words, it looks really long until you realize that's a 7-story tall building. So it's actually much longer than it looks because the height makes it look like it's not quite as short as you think. And he said the length will grow by 500 feet from where it is now. So basically, it's going to be almost a mile long. This is a stunningly large building. This is the alien dreadnought that is going to be producing cars in incredibly high volume. This is going to be a wonder to see. This is going to be great. This is going to be fun. So, so that was it for FSD 9.1. I encourage you, if you haven't already, I would encourage you to go watch Chuck Cook's channel. Omar Kazi put some videos on his Twitter account of him driving around. Omar tends to post videos that are unreasonably favorable. Some of the other Twitter YouTubers like Kim Paquette, I haven't seen Kim Paquette's videos yet. I think we're only seeing some incremental improvement, but we're seeing improvement. And the thing that's hard to remember is it's already really good. It's already, check out Teslatino too. I haven't seen if he's done any videos yet. It's already really, really good. So it's hard to see the improvement if it's already really, really good. And I would say this, I think somebody was talking about this. So I have 2 teenagers, both of whom are driving. I'm taking the second one to get it. One has a driver's license. One is getting a driver's license hopefully on Tuesday. And I've watched my kids learn to drive. And watching FSD learn to drive is a little bit like watching a teen learn to drive. And I would say that it's already pretty darn good. And there's a lot of teen drivers that aren't that great. There's a lot of human drivers that aren't that great. So I'm just not, I can't fix the audio now. It's done. I'm not going to turn off the live stream, go home and get my mic and come back. Okay? Get over it. All right, the next big thing I wanted to talk about is Comma.ai. This is something I feel like a lot of people don't know about. There's a guy named George Hotz, and George Hotz, or Hotz, is a hacker extraordinaire, entrepreneur. He was originally supposedly going to work with Tesla to develop self-driving for Tesla. For whatever reason, he decided not to work with Tesla. They decided not to work with him. And he decided to start up his own self-driving company, and he makes a device that you put in your car, basically replace the rear view mirror. It's like, it used to be an Android phone. This image here is Comma 3, which is the new device. You replace your rear view mirror with this device. You plug it into your car the right way. About half of all new cars are capable of using this. And it basically does some of the driving for you. It is a level 2 system. Oh my God, get over it. The audio's not getting better. I'm not going to fiddle around with the audio and screw up the live stream. So, there's a big question about who's number 2 in self-driving cars. Pretty much anyone who's paying attention and isn't lying knows that Tesla is number 1. You've got Waymo, and you've got Cruise, and you've got Super Cruise, and you've got Blue Cruise from Ford. Comma.ai is not that well known. I was really surprised because they had this big event and there's very little news about this event where they introduced the Comma 3. So Comma 2 was a forward-facing camera for driving and a rear-facing camera to monitor the driver to make sure the driver is still paying attention. The Comma 3 is new. They just announced it. It has two forward-facing cameras and 1 rear-facing camera. The rear-facing camera does both driver monitoring and looks out the back of the car and the sides of the car. The 1 front-facing camera is a 180-degree wide-angle camera, 183-degree, and the other one is a narrow camera. Tesla does this too. They have wider cameras and narrow cameras, and the narrow camera allows the system to look further ahead. The really interesting thing, it's like Warren was captured and imprisoned. I like that. Oh, I can't believe you hit. Don't hide that. That was funny. That was funny. I got to let that one go, Mark. Oh, it's too bad. Doge Army, that was a good chat, but the moderator got to it before I could save it. That was funny. So Comma is like, if you watch I would encourage you to check out the channel. It's a long live stream video that Comma did, like Comic-Con. And there's a lot of boring parts, but there were some really good parts. And the part towards the end, there's a part where George Hotz introduces the Comma 3 and he gives the history of the company. And there's a part at the end where this guy goes through the hardware they use for AI training. And it's like they're running on duct tape. They hold things together with duct tape and gum. This is a low budget. This is what a startup, in my mind, what a startup should be, or what the golden age of startups was like, is they're in somebody's house and they've got the equipment in the garage, and they're running a cable from the kitchen to the garage to supply more electricity so they can keep things running. And they got to keep finding hacks to keep the room cool, but they got to keep it not too cool, because just so many funny things. But they are actually, at least arguably, number 2 in the race to develop self-driving software. It's mind-blowing. So you got Waymo has essentially unlimited budget. Mobileye has essentially unlimited budget. What Comma is doing, number 1, they're vision only. There's no radar. They never had radar. There's no LiDAR. They never had LiDAR. It's all camera. They were doing it on 1 camera in the Comma 2. Now they're doing it on 3 cameras with the Comma 3. I think George said he's been driving that in his car for 3 months. It was $1,000 or so to buy the Comma 2. They've upped the price to $2,200 to buy the Comma 3. It's got a faster processor. It's got more cameras, so on and so forth. So hopefully this will improve their self-driving. Hotz, when you ask him, he has pretty consistently said they're behind Tesla. Tesla will be number 1. He modified that a little bit. He was just interviewed by Dave Lee. If you haven't seen it, watch Dave Lee's interview with George Hotz. I want to say, I think there's like a 50% chance that George is full of it and this is never going to succeed. But I also think there's a 50% chance he's right and they're actually number 2. So, yeah, and he says they're profitable. I don't think they're that profitable. They've had like $6 million in revenue and they have like 20 employees. And, I don't know exactly how they're pulling it off, but it's amazing to watch. And I'm rooting for them to be number 2. I'm not rooting for them to be number 1, but I'm rooting for them to be number 2. And anyway, watching Comic-Con, I think it's 2 hours and 22 minutes into Comic-Con is when George Hotz starts speaking. I thought the people before him were kind of boring. And then later on, there's this guy who talks about their training hardware. And it's nerd stuff, right? But the what they were doing, they're buying used equipment at 1/5 of the price that's basically as good as new equipment. And they're cobbling things together, and they got like $100,000 of free cloud services from Amazon Web Services, and then they switched over to Microsoft Azure, and they got $360,000 worth of free cloud services from Azure, and then they changed accounts, and they got another $360,000 in free cloud services from Microsoft Azure. Just hilarious how they're cobbling this together and making this work. Comma 3 will not work on either of our cars, and once I get a Tesla, I will not be getting Comma because it won't be necessary in the car. I think it works typically on Toyotas and Hondas. I have a Volkswagen Passat from 2018. Apparently, it doesn't work on that. But it's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. It's not anywhere near as good as FSD beta. It's basically like autopilot on the highway, and I think it has some other limited use. I think it will improve under Comma 3. But I think the key thing, let me just take this off the screen so it's not blocking me. The key thing about Comma is they're taking an extreme approach to self-driving and to the AI and self-driving. What Tesla is doing, so what the other companies are doing is they got a lot of human coding, and they've got all these different types of sensors, radar, LiDAR, cameras, who knows what else they're doing. They got smell tests. I don't know, maybe they got a nose on it to smell things. And they're trying to fuse all these sensors together to make it work, and they've got all this complex code, and they almost have too many programmers and all that. So the other companies are really struggling because they're taking an approach that fundamentally isn't going to work. Tesla has gone to the pure vision approach. Tesla uses something called labeling, where the computer is labeling objects. It is labeling, I think, events as well. And they use humans to check to see, okay, here's a new event we need to label, or it's not labeling this correctly. And in other words, the car is understanding objects that are in its field of view. And this is covered to a great extent in the Dave Lee interview with George Hotz just like a couple days ago, maybe it was yesterday. So George Hotz's approach, Comma's approach, is like really radical. It's like, look, we show the car gets the video in, we watch what humans do, the car watches what humans do, the software watches how humans drive, and it watches what the cameras see, and it basically assumes that the cameras are seeing roughly what the humans are seeing, and then it tries to learn how did a human drive when it saw that. And there's a little bit of labeling, but very little, and it's basically they just constantly train it, here's some more video, let's train it, they keep running, and the idea is the car will eventually learn to drive like a human if you just throw enough data at it, throw enough video at it, and enough data of how humans drive in those situations. I didn't think Dave smoked him. Free Kekistan says Dave smoked George Hotz. I thought Dave did not understand George. But I didn't watch the whole video yet. I'm going to go back and watch it. Really, really good stuff. I am hopeful that George is correct, because this is potentially, if only Tesla solves self-driving, then self-driving will be expensive for a while. The sooner there's a number two, then, the goal isn't, like I'm a Tesla shareholder, so I want to make money. But the goal isn't just to make money. The goal is to save lives, make the world a better place, reduce the cost of transportation for humanity, make the world more convenient and better, increase the efficiency of the simulation, whatever you want to call it. And like for my own self-driving car startup, and I have a meeting later today on my self-driving single passenger self-driving car startup today. I have a meeting after I'm done with the live stream. An inexpensive solution is going to make that work a lot better. So, and really quick, just a reminder, merch, elonbits.com. The machine that builds the machine t-shirt. This is Giga Berlin from Tesla Imagery. So, I just think that Comma is a really interesting thing to look at, because we hear a lot about Mobileye, we hear about Chinese self-driving program companies, we hear about Waymo. You almost never hear about Comma. Comma got like zero coverage. I thought this was a pretty momentous event. If Comma can scale up, if Comma can make it work, if Comma can just deliver a good ADAS system, advanced driver assistance, so that the car does lane keeping and braking and cruise control and maintaining lane and maybe making lane changes on interstate highways, that's a pretty valuable thing for people who don't have full self-driving. And if you have a regular car, a 2019 Honda Accord, a 2017 Toyota Highlander, a Chevy, whatever, Ford Escape, something like that. This is going to work on most modern cars, and you will have basically Tesla Autopilot for much less money on an ordinary car. And so Comma could potentially make a lot of money. So really, really cool stuff. It's on the Jim Whitehead. It's Comma.ai has a channel on YouTube, and it's the most recent video on their channel. And like I said, I would skip ahead to 2 hours and 22 minutes in to watch George Hotz start, and then watch the guy towards the end of the video, which I think there's a big dead spot at the end of the video. But okay, so I think we're done with Comma, so let's move on to SpaceX. What's the latest SpaceX news? They are making progress at Starbase. I don't think there's a lot of other SpaceX news that I've seen. I haven't seen anything. I think there's a Starlink launch coming up, but there really hasn't been a lot of SpaceX news except Starbase. Elon has been spending a lot of time at Starbase, Boca Chica, the southern tip of Texas. He's been bouncing back and forth between Austin and Starbase. He did visit Canaveral a couple times, at least his jet did. So they're building what's called the launch table. And I'm going to have another picture of this in a minute. And Elon has, posted some pictures of it. There's some other pictures I'm going to show. And they lowered this launch table. This is the thing that the booster is going to sit on when it goes to launch. And Starship is going to sit on top of the booster. And that thing that they're lowering down itself weighs 370 tons. I wanted him to say 16 tons because that would have been a good Monty Python joke. But that's step one. Step two, here's the launch table. They actually set it down. This is from Chris from NASA Spaceflight, which is a great channel on YouTube if you want to watch live video from what's happening at Starbase and sometimes other stuff. I think they have multiple cameras. It's a great channel. I love that channel. Elon says that it needs to be level and match booster fitting, so they're going to find out on Tuesday. So we got a couple days. They can see if this is set up right. This is the thing that Super Heavy and Starship are going to stand on for launch. I think this launch is going to be in August. I think they're shooting for before the end of August to have this launch. They have AI Day on the 19th of August, and I wonder, are they going to try to get the booster launch around? And they've had progress with, I'm going to talk about Super Heavy. There's more progress with Super Heavy as well, the booster. I think there's a chance that we're going to see a launch this month, more likely next month, but more likely September. But I think there's an outside chance they get it done. And I am planning to fly to wherever AI Day is. Whether I get in or not, there'll be pre-events and post-events, and I'm going to be hanging out. And if I get in, great. And I am planning to go to the southern tip of Texas and spend a couple weeks there if I have to wait for the launch. So we may have unusual circumstances for live streams then as well. But they're making progress there. And then there's another detail, and there was a picture which I didn't find when I was prepping for today because I don't have any internet at home, that apparently the grid fins, it's above this tweet. Apparently the grid fins, I think it's above this tweet. Apparently the grid fins on Super Heavy are fixed. The grid fins on Falcon 9 are pinned next to the boost. This is the booster. They are flat, and as the rocket is descending into the atmosphere, the grid fins come out to help slow the rocket down and keep it stable in its flight. And for Super Heavy, they decided not to do that. It saves weight not having these things. The grid fins are huge and heavy, and the motors that were needed to work to make them pop up and down are also heavy. So they decided to just leave them fixed. And apparently, that's not a huge problem for launch, and it's better than it's better to have them up and not have to move them. It's interesting stuff, but Elon has said he's not sure that grid fins are the future of their boosters. Do they max mode payload? There's a good chance they don't. It's something with much more drag and reduced landing propellant, might have better performance. So that's something they might work on in the future, but future. It's not something they're working on now. So that's, fixed better for catch strength. That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. It may be that it's better. The tower is supposed to catch the booster as it lands. So maybe that's another reason why. He didn't say that. I don't think he said that, but that's a pretty good reason why you would want to keep them fixed. So somebody asks, how long? This is a good question from Dave White. Any predictions how long Warren will go today? I'm pretty sure I'm going to stop at 2 hours. It's 1:30 now. We'll see how long the question and answer go. I don't have a lot of more content. We're moving on to Neuralink next, and then we're doing the Q&A, and as long as the Q&A goes, and I think we'll probably go another hour from here, but it could be an hour and a half. We'll see. It's how long the questions go, and I have a lot of Patreon and YouTube channel member questions to address, so we'll see how that goes. So, let's move on to Neuralink. Really big news for Neuralink. This is like blowing me away Neuralink news. They did a funding round. I'm a little bit disappointed about this. They did a funding round where they raised I'm excited for Neuralink. I'm disappointed for myself. They did a funding round where they raised $205 million. This appears to be big time venture capital funds. Vi Capital, Google Ventures, DFJ Growth is a big venture capital fund. Valor Equity, Founders Fund. These are really GigaFund. These are the biggest of big venture capital funds that participated. They had a few others that participated in this funding round. I don't think they had a lot of small venture capital funds in. I had been trying to put together a venture capital fund, a special purpose vehicle to invest in either Neuralink or the Boring Company or both or whatever. And I had settled on the Boring Company because I didn't think Neuralink was going to do a funding round this soon. I thought Boring Company would do a funding round first, and I was wrong. So, but I don't think we would have gotten in this round because I think this was a round of big players, and at best, I think I would have been able to put together a $5 million fund, and I think that's optimistic, and I think $5 million would not have been enough to get in this round, and I don't think I have the connections to get in on this funding round. But I think when they do a future funding round for either Neuralink or Boring Company, if I go back and try to build it, and if you check the links in the description below, there's a link for the email list for investors. And it's quiet now, so you're not going to get any emails, but at some point I may go back to the idea of trying to build a fund to invest in Neuralink, Boring Company, maybe SpaceX, Starlink, any of that. But anyway, so that didn't happen. I mean, it did happen. They raised the money. We did not get to participate in it. I did see an opportunity recently to invest in Boring Company. I didn't follow up on it. I have kind of moved on to, I'm going to build my own single passenger EV company, meeting later today, and I'll be working on that. Free Kekistan, I'm at a neighbor's house because my internet's out. So, and there was one other thing for Neuralink. Elon tweeted the Neuralink company bar. So if you go to Elon's Twitter, he has a short video. It's not really that great of a video, honestly, but it's like I think he just went to the Neuralink company bar and turned around 360 degrees. And you can see that on the wall they have Monkey Mind Pong, and the Neuralink company bar is inspired by Cyberpunk. So kind of a cool little feature. I am working on a video about Neuralink. I don't think the internet outage is going to stop me from finishing the video. It might actually speed up my finishing the video. I got a lot of editing to do, and a lot of the work I do doesn't require the internet. So I'm hoping to have a video out about Neuralink. Thank you, Savvy D, for your support. I'm hoping to have a video out about Neuralink. There was an interview with Siobhan Zillis, not an interview, a presentation by Siobhan Zillis, which I'm still editing that part of the video. There was an article an interview with a guy named Joseph O'Doherty, who's another Neuralink employee, and I'll also mention the Neuralink funding round in the video. So that will hopefully be out Tuesday or Wednesday this week. And I'm not sure what else I have coming up. I always have a million ideas. We'll figure out what I end up putting into a video, but Neuralink video is coming. It's on my computer. I'm working on it, so that's coming. That's next. Okay, so let's move on to Q&A because I can't think of anything else to talk about with Neuralink. Mark's other question was Superchargers. Somebody asked about Superchargers. Mark said Superchargers opening to all the EVs will be a plus or minus. Superchargers opening to all EVs is a huge plus. Think about it this way. Suppose Tesla owns about 29, I think they now have 29, they have about 30,000 superchargers. It's a little bit like owning 30,000 gas pumps. Imagine Ford Motor Company owned 30,000 gas pumps, and they made money on every fill up. In the long run, that's got to be revenue positive for the company. There's people who are concerned that this means that EVs, competing EVs, will be taking up space at superchargers and making them less accessible to Tesla vehicles. Let's be realistic. Okay, There are very few, this is only in the US for now. There are very few other EVs out there. The companies that sell them are not going to promote Tesla. They're not going to promote using Tesla superchargers. Probably less than half of the EVs that, there's probably 10 times as many Teslas on US roads as there are other EVs that are likely to use superchargers. And only, far less than half of the EV users, the non-Tesla EV users, will think of going to a Tesla supercharger. And if they go to a Tesla supercharger, it's great branding for Tesla. So this is somebody who bought an EV and now they're going to get much more exposure to Tesla EVs, and they might decide, gee, you know what, next time I'm going to buy a Tesla. Or they might tell their friends, yeah, I got this Ford Mustang Mach-E, but boy, the Tesla system seems to be working a lot better. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And then, the supercharger network is going to grow like crazy. It's 30,000 superchargers now and about 3,000 stations. It's probably going to grow to, that's global. It's probably going to grow to 10,000 stations and 100,000 superchargers within a couple years. And that's just a huge chunk of revenue that they're going to add. They're going to make money selling electricity to people. And my gut would be they're going to start finding other ways to generate revenue, just like a gas station. And for those who are not in the US, it's very common at a gas station to have a convenience store that sells coffee and snacks and other things, sandwiches, sometimes ice cream, whatever. Tesla is planning to open a diner at one of their supercharger stations. Very, very likely that Tesla will figure out ways of monetizing the supercharger stations to make additional revenue. I don't think that revenue is going to matter as much as Robotaxi, but it's interesting. Ken asks, let's see, we got a super chat here. Thank you, Stephen, for your support. Greatly appreciated. Ken asks, do any of the comments about batteries on the earnings call change any of your spreadsheet predictions made based on the number of batteries that will be produced on quarterly annual milestones, fewer by Tesla, more by partners? I didn't hear a lot of significant changes, Ken. What's clear is that they're going to roughly double batteries from suppliers. That one seems pretty clear. It seems clear that previously Drew said more than double, and they seem to have walked back more than double to double. I think they're now sandbagging. I think Drew wasn't supposed to say more than double. We know that CATL is massively increasing their supply of lithium iron phosphate cells. We know that LG Chem is trying like hell to keep up with or stay ahead of CATL. There's going to be a huge supply of batteries coming in the next few years. CATL is aiming for 1,200 gigawatt hours in 2025, up from they're aiming for 230 gigawatt hours, I think, in 2023, and 1,200 gigawatt hours in 2025. They are massively scaling up their battery production. Tesla is probably the only customer who can use all the batteries they're going to produce. So I think that's really looking good. I thought that it was notable that Elon said they're probably going to go 2/3 lithium iron phosphate and 1/3 nickel-based, 2/3 iron, 1/3 nickel-based batteries in the future. I actually think it's going to be more than 2/3 iron. I think it's going to be more like 75-80% iron in the long run. But we'll see. Tesla's own battery production, they seem pretty confident they're going to hit a 100 gigawatt hour run rate by the end of 2022, which is probably a little slower than I thought when I first made my models, but it doesn't matter in the long run. In the long run, they're going to achieve a huge volume, and they're going to get a huge the number of batteries they're getting from suppliers is increasing faster than I thought when I did my models. So that's different. That's actually, I would say my models, if anything, might be getting better. I think the other thing that really stood out was the statement that they're ordering batteries more than they expect to increase car supply, and the excess batteries will go into grid storage devices, Megapack and Powerwall. So previously I said I'm expecting them to hit close to 900,000 vehicles this year. I had previously said I thought they would hit 2 million vehicles in 2022. I still think that could happen, but given what they said at earnings call, I think it's a little less likely that they hit 2 million vehicles in 2022 maybe closer to 1.8 million vehicles or 1.7 million vehicles in 2022. But along with that, energy storage production is going to go up a lot more. And we're going to see a much bigger deployment of Megapack and a much bigger deployment of Powerwall in the next couple of years. And Powerwall is, I think, very profitable, and I think Megapack is going to become very profitable as they scale production. I hope that answers the question, Ken. Great question. Ali asks, hi Warren, digging in some Tesla Q accounts, found something highly disturbing, talking about a settlement Elon is going to do by end of September. So first mistake was listening to Tesla Q accounts. Anything you read in Tesla Q is probably false. I am not, that there's some sort of settlement coming with Elon and that he's going to step down from being CEO and his performance package is going to be canceled. That sounds like total nonsense. I have no hint of that. I have no idea why anybody would think that's going to happen. Don't pay attention to Tesla Q. That sounds like total nonsense. That's actually dumber than the theory that Tesla's going to stop making the Model 3 next year. Or the end. There was a rumor that Tesla's going to stop making the Model 3 by the end of this year. There's rumors fly all over the place. Just don't let it go. Everything's great. They're producing a lot of cars. Everything looks great. Damien says, Warren, do you think Elon will be able to solve his biggest problem of all when the Tesla CEO said, my biggest fear is there will be no one to replace me? I think he said that a while ago. I think that was a reference to a time a few years ago when they were doing Solar City. I think it's really clear that Tesla has a solid team in place. Drew Baglino, it seems to be very clear that Drew Baglino is the number 2 guy at the company, and Zach Kirkhorn is right there with him. Thank you, John Luca, for your support. You can people can do super chats and super stickers, and I really appreciate your help and helping the channel, helping me do this. For those who don't know, I don't make a lot of money doing live streams. I get a lot better ad revenue from my edited videos, but I love doing the live streams anyway. So I'm not concerned about replacing Elon. First of all, I think Elon's fine. I don't think Elon's going anywhere. I think the probability of Elon disappearing is very, very small. It's always a risk it's going to happen, but it seems like a very, very low probability. Drew Baglino's great. Zach Kirkhorn's great. Tesla is a great operation. Is it better with Elon? Sure. Elon is an accelerator, but they are already on a great path. They already have a lot of the culture baked in. They are innovating. They are moving. They are doing great things, and I am not worried about the future of Tesla. Even if Elon disappeared tomorrow, the stock would drop 50%, and I would sell everything to buy more stock because it would be a huge bargain. Because it's already baked in. The growth is already baked in for the next 5-10 years. The FSD accomplishments, everything that they're trying to achieve, Elon helps accelerate it and make it happen faster. But there's a culture behind it. You can hear the key employees talk the same way. They get the message. It'll be fine. Let's see. I'm just not worried about that. I'm sorry, you've got a really long comment. I can't go through the whole comment in the Q&A. So let's move on to the YouTube. I want to see if there are YouTube comments before I comments on the YouTube channel. Okay, I don't see any comments on. Oh no, it may be down here. Let's see. Yeah, there are comments on the YouTube channel. So let's see. These are from YouTube channel exclusive content members. So if you join the channel, then this is another way of chipping in with questions that will get answered at the beginning of the Q&A. Blasco says, remember when Trevor Milton dared Cathie Wood to debate him and she accepted, so he ran away? I do vaguely remember that, yes. Emerito, thank you for your support. Let's see. Who's next to fail, Lucid, Fisker, or Rivian? I think you mean Rivian. I'm not sure who you mean there. I don't think that Lucid is not, although I'm a Lucid cynic, I don't think Lucid is going to fail anytime soon. Wasn't it? Are there any questions for the, maybe I didn't ask. I asked here. All right, so let's move on to the chat. I'm sorry for being distracted. If you have questions for me, put them in the chat and I will answer. Steve Rosen says, is there any way for one of us with a Tesla to join the beta testers so we can help the debug of FSD 9.x? I'm not sure how somebody gets to be a beta tester. I think that the beta test group is growing. If somebody I think there may be a way of applying to be a beta tester, but I don't know the answer to how to do that. Definitely, Bill, I do believe that there was it's pretty clear that something related to Cybertruck was on those green wraps. One theory I heard that was Cybertruck parts rather than actual Cybertruck. Am I still buying? I bought 3 shares of Tesla at $625 a share 2 weeks ago. Ordered. That was before the earnings call. I'm even more confident after. I thought the earnings call was like absolute fantastic. CM says, in Warren in Q2, Elon said FSD will be the most valuable thing in human history. Can you comment on that? Benjamin Sanders, thank you for your support. Aside from AI Day-esque events, how will Tesla continue to attract the best talent in the world? Great question, Benjamin. Thank you for your support. The answer to that is, I think AI Day events are big. I think making great cars. I think Elon. I think that there are a lot of things that you don't see, like Andrei Karpathy speaks at events and talks about AI. I think that there's other things that they do that we don't know about to recruit. I know I was actually talking with a top person at Tesla. Someone asked him about what kind of engineers they're trying to recruit. There's this particular problem they have. They're trying to recruit mechanical engineers who are good with large spinning machines. They have very, very interesting recruitment challenges. So a lot of really cool stuff there. Let's see. Do the other key guys tied into stock-based comp? I think that other key players get stock-based compensation, but it's nowhere near as large as Elon's. So Steve, about joining beta testers, I'm not sure. I know I have seen there's some way to apply for it, but I don't know how. Maka asks about my thoughts on the Australia battery fire. I think they're testing the equipment and they found something wrong with it. It's still something they're testing. Something went wrong with one of the battery packs, and they'll figure out what went wrong and they'll fix it, and it won't happen again. And then down the road, something else will go wrong. But it was a fire in one unit out of like hundreds. That's a small problem. What do I think about the idea of Tesla taking over the sponsorship of the test track attraction at Epcot? They could even include a Tesla restaurant there. I don't think that's something that Elon would do. That's like a down the road thing when Tesla is no longer exciting and they need to find ways of getting people to buy the cars or get interested in the company. People are already stoked about the company. There's no need to do that. Let's see. I'm just looking for questions here. Will Tesla do robotaxi themselves or let owners rent out their own cars? I believe the plan for robotaxi is both. That if you have a car that you want to put in the robotaxi network, you will take your phone and you will hit the Make Me Money button on the Tesla app, and your car will go out and make you money. And Tesla will have its own fleet of cars. I personally think that the right plan for Tesla is once they get robotaxi nailed, they stop selling cars to customers. If you already own one, you can put it on the network. But otherwise, Tesla would just make cars for the network and own them themselves. I don't know why they would want to share the profit with someone else. They don't need someone else to finance the production of the cars. The cars will make enough money in the first year to pay for the car anyway. In the first few months, they will make enough money to pay for the cost of building the car. So it makes no sense to me that Tesla would sell cars, but there's a lot of people who think I'm wrong. When will Rivian start deliveries? I think Rivian will deliver this year. Did I miss something? I think I answered that. Oh, so CM asked, FSD will be the most valuable thing in human history. Can I comment on that? 100 trillion market cap. Yeah, so look, if you check a recent interview with James Dalma and Rob Maurer, Tesla Daily, Tesla podcast, there was a really good conversation about that. And James Dalma's number for robotaxi was even higher than mine, and people think I'm crazy. I usually base my evaluation of robotaxi as a typical robotaxi will make $50,000 a year in revenue, and you got 10 million robotaxis. Well, 50 times, if you got 10 million robotaxis making $50,000 a year, that's $500 billion a year in profit. $500 billion a year in profit. And then you go to 100 million robotaxis, and then I cut the earning down to 10,000, you got $1 trillion a year in profit, and a price earnings ratio of 100, you're at 100 trillion, and that doesn't include all the rest of the company. Like how much is the AI training worth or whatever. So So that would be, look, the most valuable company in the world is $2 or $3 trillion, and I see Tesla easy going to $10 trillion company, and maybe going to a $50 trillion or $100 trillion company. My bear case is an $8 trillion company, but when you add the robo-taxi in, it's just like a massive multiplier. I think James said it was like a 5x multiplier on the valuation of the company. So what do I think about Neuralink for restoring limb functionality of paralyzed people? Great question. I think it's going to happen. I think that's not immediate. If you watch the Siobhan Zillis presentation, which I'm going to cover in a video this week, that's not an immediate goal. That's something that Elon has talked about, but it is not an immediate goal. The immediate goal is to help paralyzed people operate a computer, operate a mouse, operate a keyboard, to enter text into a computer without having to touch type, to move a mouse without having to actually move the mouse, to move the cursor on the screen without having to move the mouse. That's the short-term goal. Then maybe get to the point where they can play video games and be really good at playing video games. And then longer run, yes, restoring limb functionality for paralyzed people and lots of other things. Watch the Siobhan Zillis presentation, but I'm going to cover a lot of it in my video this week. Let's see. For other questions here, when will Rivian start deliveries? I think Rivian will deliver by the end of this year, but I'm worried I'm too optimistic about Rivian. I want to believe in Rivian, let's just say that. I see a lot more positive things with Rivian than I see with Lucid Motors. They let people drive their trucks. They've done a lot more. Will Tesla do Robotaxi? Answered that one. Will Tesla make lots of revenue from sharing charging stations to other EVs? I think Tesla will make a lot of revenue from charging stations. I think other EVs will be a small part of that revenue because most of the users of Tesla charging stations will be Tesla users, Tesla owners. Jose Marquez says, in 5 or more years, when Tesla revenue is huge, maybe Tesla could spend funds in research grants on investigation regarding sustainable technologies helping the development of poorer countries. I think that the robotaxi model is, the EV robotaxis are helping to develop, will eventually help the development of poorer countries with sustainable technologies. And I personally am meeting later today with someone to talk about building a single passenger EV robotaxi prototype that would be targeted towards poor countries. I don't know that Tesla needs to do that. I think Tesla's profits will probably be focused on getting us to Mars, that Elon's share of Tesla's profits will be focused on going into SpaceX to get us to Mars and going into Neuralink to help people with brain diseases and ultimately help us keep up with the AI. John Yent says, do I think Sandy Monroe is correct about Cybertruck not being competition for F-150 for average work people? I don't think there's an average work person. I think there are some work people who will prefer a standard pickup truck, and some work people will prefer Cybertruck, and it depends what kind of work you're doing. I think if you want an EV pickup truck, Cybertruck is going to be overall much better than the F-150 Lightning. The F-150 Lightning is very heavy. It has a more limited payload. I don't think they're going to produce F-150 Lightning in significant volume. So I think there's a lot of hope for that. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to keep track. The comment thing doesn't move smoothly. Benjamin says, I find most people are open to EVs once they understand the benefits. Should Tesla do more to educate the masses? I think Tesla's already going all out to educate the masses. They promote things, they do events. They have an army of people like me and people who are much bigger and more effective than me at communicating the value. Lex Friedman is telling the story. He's got a much bigger platform. Rob Maurer has a much bigger platform. Anybody who gets a Tesla tells their friends about it. I think that the communication is already there. And I think a lot of people have already come around. I don't think it's going to be very, it's the goal, look, make the vehicles better and it becomes more obvious. And they're already better. Great question from Jose. What are Tesla's biggest challenges, difficulties in the 5 years ahead? The number one challenge is always execution. Getting things done, not screwing up, getting things done well. Execution is clearly the biggest challenge. Politics is probably a big challenge that Elon's shown himself to be pretty good at dealing with politics, but politics, there's a lot of people in politics who are coming after Tesla. The bigger Tesla grows, the bigger a target they are. So that's, I think, the biggest risk always is the government will get in the way. People think it's the Chinese government. I think governments in the US are the biggest problem. Matt Burns says, Hot said Tesla will solve first. I think Hot said that Tesla will probably solve first. He thinks the chance of Comma solving it first has gone up. I will say from what I saw, I think Comma is so under-resourced that I don't think they're likely to succeed. Andy Gilson says, excluding yourself, which YouTuber would be your preference for the proposed Elon interview? Rob Maurer. I think Rob Maurer would be a great person to interview Elon. I love watching Rob. I think the biggest challenge is finding somebody to do the interview with Elon who's not going to ask him questions we already know the answers to. I personally think I would be good because I'm not just a Tesla person. I would ask him about Neuralink. I would ask him about, I don't know how much time I would get. But I would ask about SpaceX. I think, Scott Manley maybe would be great for SpaceX. But let's see. What was that question? Sorry, regarding the shared charging networks, should charge port compatibility be a Tesla problem, OEM problem, or shared responsibility? I believe Tesla is going to put adapters at the charging stations. I don't think it's a big problem. Or either that or they'll sell a charging adapter to be. Charging adapters is a very small problem. How long until the next factory announcement, Martin? I think probably mid-2022. Elon was asked about that. Sandy Monroe asked Elon about that in an interview. And Elon said they have to get Austin and Berlin up and running. So I think once Austin and Berlin are up and running and they're making good progress and they see that they're making good progress, then they got to start planning the next, not the next factory announcement. I think it's the next factories announcement. I think the next round there will be a round of factories and there's going to be at least 3 of them and maybe more. A couple of questions about dividends. I don't know when. I think Tesla will probably have to start paying dividends when the robotaxi network spins up and starts really producing huge amounts of profit. I don't know when that is. 2025, 2026 certainly sounds about right. But, it's always possible that there's a lot of companies that don't pay dividends for a long time. I just think they're going to be generating so much cash that they're probably going to have to pay a dividend. But I don't know, and I actually don't really care. People care about dividends. I've never cared about dividends. Thaddeus Walker, great question. What are the odds that George Hotz is ANCAP? ANCAP, for those who don't know, is anarcho-capitalist. I am, generally speaking, an anarcho-capitalist. It's a form of libertarian. It basically means we believe in pretty much zero government, and it's based on something called the non-aggression principle. I don't know. I think there's a pretty good chance that George is libertarian. Whether he's ANCAP is a stretch. I don't know. I think George has got very interesting political views. He certainly doesn't seem socialist or communist. Thoughts on rumored Cybertruck unibodies in Austin? I don't know. We just didn't see enough. A second question about dividend. I don't really watch. I love Stephen Mark Ryan. I very rarely watch. There are only certain YouTubers whose videos I watch. I feel like watching Stephen Mark Ryan is like, we agree on everything, so what's the point of watching what he says? So it's rare for me to watch a video that he makes. Although I have watched a couple of his videos recently. I love him, I just don't, every time I watch a video, it's like I would say the same thing, so what am I learning from it? Where there are other videos where I feel like I learn more. I get different perspectives. I like to get different perspectives. Declan, thank you for your support, Declan. Elon's companies are doing great things to aid humanity. Do you think anything Elon may do using technology to eliminate or reduce crime? I thought we've talked about this before, Declan. So imagine a fleet of Tesla vehicles that are all robo-taxis or all have cameras on them. And there's a report that comes in that a child was just kidnapped from X location. And they query the fleet, see if there are any vehicles that are near that location, and see if any of the vehicles got any video of the incident happening or anybody driving away, and then they're able to identify license plates, and then they query the fleet to track the vehicle that was involved in the incident, and that may help track down criminals, find stolen children, whatever. I think there's a lot of ways in which a fleet of Tesla vehicles that can be queried in an emergency situation can find something. You can find something in the cameras, and you can query the fleet and say, "Did you see?" And maybe there's a picture of the kid's face, or there's a picture of, or they know the location where something happened, and see if there's a vehicle nearby that caught something that happened and use that. And I also think that the technology that goes into self-driving, the word I'm looking for, the real world AI could easily be deployed in security camera systems on homes as well. And then the security camera systems could recognize, hey, this looks suspicious. Let's go to a higher level of awareness and let's alert the homeowner something's going on outside that you should be paying attention to. Or alert the homeowner from a distance, hey, something's happening. The homeowner's somewhere else, hey, something's happening outside. You know, you get a notification on your phone, it shows you on the camera, this is what I saw, should I worry about this? I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of ways for the real world AI that they're developing to provide a lot of benefits in a lot of ways. Yeah, I mean, and as John Bay says, the security has already helped. The Sentry mode has already helped with crime, but I think it can be much bigger. Joanne Fagan, for a libertarian, you seem pretty relaxed about the state police, the state using Tesla as a surveillance utility. I didn't mention government at all. You just assumed I was talking about government. I didn't mention government. Where will Tesla park vehicles during non-robotaxi use? So I think it's important to recognize here that each robotaxi replaces at least 5 cars. So you need 1/5 the number of parking spaces in the first place. Second of all, I think what likely happens in a robotaxi network is at the end of the day, let's say midnight, the volume of traffic starts going down and robotaxis go off to charging stations to charge, and they, you know, the charging station, the network tells them when to go to the charging station to optimize use of the charging stations. And then the robotaxi, once it's charged, goes to park somewhere near where it likely will have its first ride of the day. And they literally spread out over the day. They know where the rides are going. The AI knows where the rides are most likely going to be, where the demand is going to be for rides, and they position robotaxis so that they're near where ride demand is going to be in the next morning. So I think that's the answer to the question. I think that's a pretty good answer to the question. Will Superchargers be a profit center? I already answered that, yes. Thanks, Harry, for coming. Yeah, I think it's kind of like the Ring doorbell market, Harry, that you could see a much bigger version of the Ring doorbell market. If Elon thinks VTOL will be a winner, why are you so anti-boring? Is going to take decades to get any transaction. VTOL will be here mid-2020s. So no. Number one, I'm not anti-VTOL. I just don't think it's going to be price competitive with boring. And I think you're massively underestimating how fast the boring network is going to grow. I think what's coming for boring. I think, so let me be clear with this, Dave. The issue isn't that I think VTOL is a bad idea. I just think economically, if you have Hyperloop, it's going to be better, lower cost, and probably faster or comparably fast to electric VTOL, but much lower cost and much more convenient for most people. So I'm open to being persuaded on this, by the way. I think that the tunnel networks are going to start growing, and they're going to grow faster, and at some point they get the tunneling down and they build the machine that builds the tunnel boring machine. And instead of doing one project here and one project there, it goes to 10 projects and it goes to 100 projects all happening at the same time. There's nothing stopping Boring Company from building. They have like 2 boring machines now, or 1 or 2 boring machines now. There's nothing stopping them from building 100. There's nothing stopping them from building 1,000. And if you build 1,000 boring machines, then all of a sudden you have a lot of tunnels fast. I think that answers your question. Will Tesla use facial recognition open doors on Cybertruck? I think that's possible. Yes, I think that's possible. I do think a facial recognition database is possible. I don't know if it's necessary. I think it's more like if you have a home security system on your house or your apartment complex, then you would want your home security. Let's suppose you have an apartment complex with 100 apartments. And apartments, for those who don't know, in Europe, apartments tend to be higher crime areas than single-family homes in America. So it's more important to have security systems in apartment complexes because there's more crime there. And it would make sense to, let's say you're the owner of an apartment complex with 100 units, to have a camera system. And if you deploy facial recognition, the camera recognizes, oh, that's Joe, he's going to his apartment. Oh, that's, wait, that's a face I don't recognize, or that person's face is covered. I don't recognize that vehicle. and you would have an internal database for that system to recognize those things. I don't know that you would have a national or global facial recognition database, although I don't know why you wouldn't. Send criminals to Venus. I like that. Jim says paying dividends works for old companies that can't grow but throw off tons of cash. So I think, Jim, the issue is, will Tesla be able to deploy all the cash? And I'm not sure they will. I think that there's huge profits coming ahead, and whether Tesla distributes them as dividends is, I don't see another way. I guess I would say I agree with Stephen Mark Ryan. As usual, this is why I don't watch his videos, because I just agree with whatever he says. There's no point in doing a video and watching his videos, because he's just going to say something I already agree with. I have already had that thought that at some point they're going to have to do dividends. I don't personally care that much about dividends. My dividends are going to go into my IRA. I'm not going to be able to touch them for 10 years anyway. I'm just going to use them to buy more Tesla stock. So what's the point? Warren, in 2030, if there's over 50 million EVs on the road from all OEMs just in the US, how many more superchargers will Tesla need? So I think they're going to need a lot more superchargers. Probably at least 10x what they have now. And keep in mind, if they improve the superchargers and they charge faster, then there's a limit to how fast superchargers can charge because of battery chemistry. But if they could, let's say, speed up the charging 2x, then the throughput of the charging station is 2x. So then if you needed 100 more superchargers, maybe now you only need 50 more. As people charge more at home, as the places people go have more chargers, destination chargers or whatever, people are going to need superchargers less. As we go to a robo-taxi network, I'm not sure how much supercharging will be needed, because, and then it's a different scenario. You need the supercharger network to charge the robo-taxis, which is a whole different scenario. A Tesla app will be a Trojan horse. Yes, I totally agree with this, Jim and Mark. A Tesla app for other EVs. In other words, if you're going to use the supercharger station from when you're using a Ford Mustang Mach-E or a Volkswagen ID4 or whatever, and you use the Tesla app to use the charging station, you're getting massive Tesla branding. It's a Trojan horse. It's just giving you advertising to buy a Tesla. They'll sell you a Tesla solar roof or Tesla solar panels or Tesla Powerwall while you're at your charging station or whenever you're on the app. Elon owns 25% of Tesla. Mitchell says that with Elon owning 20%, he can use that to fund the SpaceX Mars mission. I think Elon's up to 25% ownership of Tesla by the time when the whole stock compensation plan is complete. I think Elon will own 25% of Tesla, and I think that he will get more stock. I think they will do a new stock compensation plan. He may ultimately own as much as 30% of Tesla. And yeah, he's going to do it for that. Is Tesla producing solar panels in Austin? No. As far as I know, Tesla does not produce solar panels themselves. Tesla gets solar cells from China and assembles them in Buffalo, I believe. Will they be producing solar? And I haven't seen any indication they're going to be doing solar in Austin, but it would make sense for them to do so. So I think that's possible down the road. I don't think they're going to make the cells. But will they make the panels? Maybe. I think that it makes sense to just have the panels made in China. Teslaville, I think Tesla should make homes, but they only have so much bandwidth. I would love to interview Gwynne Shotwell. I don't think I'm going to get that interview, but I would love to interview Gwynne Shotwell. That would be very, very high on my list of things to do. I would spend like a week preparing questions for her, and you'll probably only get to ask 10% of them. Black House Bruce says, how long will it take Boring Company to ramp up to projects in multiple cities? I believe the answer to that is this year. They're going to have a project. They have a project going in Las Vegas, and they will have a project going in Fort Lauderdale by the end of this year. They will probably have by next year. They will probably have Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Las Vegas going, and Rancho Cucamonga, California. I think Orlando's coming. I actually reached out to the Orlando mayor's office. I think they're interested, so I think something might happen in Orlando as well. So if I live in Boca, Nicola says, I live in Boca. If you get your Cybertruck first, can I check it out? Absolutely, Nicola. Nicola, my email is wredlick@gmail.com. If you go to the About on my channel, I think you can get my email address and send me an email. We can meet before I get my Cybertruck. I'll have lunch together or something. I love meeting with local fans, local followers. How many people here are not a truck person to order a Cyber? I'm not a truck person and I ordered a Cybertruck. Will Tesla ever do vacuum cleaners? Good God. I didn't know that Tom Nash has asked for an interview. I kind of like Tom. We'll see. Hi, Tom. Tom's in the chat. I just wanted you to know, Tom. I said I liked Tom before I knew you were in the chat. You want to interview me about the Trevor Milton case? I would love to do it, Tom. Email me, wredlick@gmail.com. Send me an email. We'll set something up this week. Okay, so I think I answered all the questions above. Let me go back down below. Any plans to interview Tasha? I have asked Tasha from ARK Invest for an interview, and she has not responded. I would love to interview anyone. I would love to interview Brett from ARK Invest. I would love to interview Kathy Wood. I would love to interview Tasha. I think there's one more that whenever somebody from ARK tweets, I reply, I would love to interview about something, because I always have something I want to ask them about. And so far, they're not interested. So I don't know if anybody other than Kathy Wood does interviews, and I might not be big enough to get Kathy Wood for an interview. But if anybody knows someone at ARK Invest and they're willing to do an interview on my channel, I would love to talk to them. Oh, Chris Heath says, once there are lots of robo-taxis, is there such a need for boring tunnels? Yes, yes. The issue is, he says, because there's less cars. It's less cars, but there's not less cars driving on the road at that moment. There's less cars overall because there's less cars parked. All the cars are operating. None of the cars are sitting still. So there's plenty of cars, and there may actually be more cars on the road. There's actually a greater need for boring tunnels. I actually think this is one of the reasons why I want to pursue single passenger vehicles, is because if you can get the vehicle width down to 3 feet, then you've doubled the capacity of the road. And if you get the vehicle length down to half the length, and you can get the vehicles to follow each other closely, maybe you can 2 or 3 or 4x the capacity of the road that way as well. Dave Rainbow says, what's the production volume going to be for Cybertruck? I believe they're aiming for 250,000 or 300,000, and if it's not enough, they'll build more lines. What's the biggest takeaway? This is a great question. Wait, can I find this question? What's the biggest takeaway that I'm expecting from AI Day, and what effect will it have on Tesla's share for long term, say 2030? I think the biggest takeaway, well, there's 2 big takeaways. One is we will have a much better idea why Elon thinks that robotaxi, that full self-driving is happening soon. They're definitely going to cover what's going on with full self-driving and why we're going to see full self-driving cars by the end of this year, if not early next, or maybe early next year. That's a big takeaway, that it's happening, and we're going to see robotaxi networks and all that. The other big takeaway is what the AI training supercomputer can do for other AI applications, and how much, and from a Tesla standpoint, how much revenue it will generate to provide AI training services to others. So I think that's big. What's your vacuum cleaner question? I don't think Tesla is going to make vacuum cleaners, no. But there already is a self-driving vacuum cleaner. It's called Roomba or something. Why would Tesla make that? That's not a huge problem that needs Tesla's attention. Let's see. 500 semi this year. They pushed semi back to next year, if you didn't follow that. I was big enough to interview Eliana Sheriff. I love Eliana. She's wonderful. Any idea when we're going to be using FSD here in Europe? I think Europe will be at least 1 year behind the US on FSD because European regulators stink. Should Tesla buy out IDRA? I don't think they need to buy IDRA. I think they're IDRA's only customer. They're doing fine. I don't know that they need to buy out IDRA to get done what they want to get done. Warren versus Gordon interview would be fun to do, but Gordon is a very challenging interview. Thank you for that thought, Mark. If anybody wants to reach out to Gordon Johnson and see if he wants to come on my channel, I would do it. Be prepared. Gordon he has a, forget the term, there's this debating strategy where you just say a whole bunch of lies really fast, and you make it impossible for the person you're arguing with to debunk all the lies you just said. So it's hard to have a genuine conversation with, and he won't answer questions directly, so. Can I bring back the German girls for an anniversary show? I don't even know when the anniversary is. Yeah, I do think there's a chance that the stock will drop after AI Day. The mainstream media will not get it. Wall Street will not get it. That's okay. If autonomy will be working by end of year, why Tesla needs to recruit at AI Day? Because it's not just about vehicle autonomy. There's this entire market of AI training. There's this entire thing about AI growing for many purposes. What about humanoid robots? What about dog robots? What about roofing robots? There's all kinds of potential. I think James Dowma disagrees with me, and James knows more than I do, but I think using Tesla's AI to develop roofing robots, which would save lives because roofers occasionally fall off roofs, and that's very dangerous. Maybe they could get a lot of roofing done with roofing robots, which would make a lot of help for Tesla Solar Roof. Chris Simmons, I'm 60 years old. Will I be alive to see robotaxi on a large scale? Yeah, I think you're going to see it within 5 years. Large scale, small scale next year, large scale within 5 years, absolutely. Boston Dynamics, Charles says Tesla should buy Boston Dynamics. Boston Dynamics was bought by Hyundai Motor. I don't think it's for sale. Let's see. Will FSD Tesla orders ever be able to drive off the assembly line straight to the customer's home? Yes. No, hey, listen, I'll interview Gordon Johnson. If somebody can get Gordon Johnson to interview with me, I would love to do it. I haven't tried. I would do it. I think the Tesla Q conversations are painful, not just for me, but for viewers. But, it's still fun, and they still get views. And it's painful, but I enjoy it anyway. Since Samsung fabricates Tesla V3 FSD computers, do you think Tesla will provide Vision AI to Samsung's Bot Handy? I don't know what Samsung's Bot Handy is. I think Tesla will provide Vision AI to anything appropriate if they can make a deal with somebody or if it works. I think it's also possible that Tesla will just build their own robots. Mary Bear is not going to interview with me. Do I know what's happened with Meet Kevin? I guess I don't know what I watched Meet Kevin. I think he's still running for governor, and I think he's doing well. Last I saw, Meet Kevin was doing well. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Daniel. Jianbei, I actually don't generally. I have ladders. I will go up, 5-10 feet. I won't go higher than 5 or 10 feet. We have an 18-foot ceiling, and if something needs to be replaced on the 18-foot ceiling, I won't do it. I won't go up that high. I know too much about how much damage you can get from falling from that height. I literally, one time I went up to, the smoke alarm was going off at 4 in the morning at 18 feet up, and I put my ladder up there, and I went up there. I wore a bicycle helmet. I don't know how much that would help, but let's see. I'm just looking for questions here. Yeah, Hyundai bought Boston Dynamics, correct. Dojo might include a simulation system for creating bad edge cases for training. No, I don't think that's it. I think it's recognizing the input that comes in and training at a high speed with high quality. Will Model Q have new chip? I think that's a good theory, Matt Burns, that the next generation Tesla vehicle, the one that's going to come out of, I think that whenever they're ready to go to the next generation FSD chip, they will do it. I think the practical reality is that the current generation chip is just good enough, and they may not need it. They may never need the next generation chip. I don't know. I think Elon said if they do the next generation chip, it will be for using higher resolution cameras. But if it's already superhuman, and it never goes to sleep, and it never gets drunk, and it never has a medication error, and it never gets sick, then, will it be necessary to improve beyond that? I don't know. Maybe that chip will be useful for other applications. Is there any company that I think Tesla could buy? I actually just don't think about that stuff. Does Elon's stock compensation package dilute the share price? Yes, it dilutes. It doesn't dilute the share price. It dilutes your ownership of the company. So I don't know if technically would say that dilutes the share price. It dilutes the share of the company that you own. So if you owned 1% of Tesla and Elon gets if you own 10% of Tesla and Elon gets enough stock in his stock compensation plan, then it dilutes your ownership of the company by a certain amount. You own less. You now own 9% of the company instead of 10% of the company. York Hunt says, what are my thoughts on the ETF short ARK ETFs? I don't know what you mean by that. I'm a fan of ARK's ETFs. I own ARKK. I did not see enough to persuade me to buy ARK's other ETFs. I'm so deep into Tesla, it's hard to get me to invest in anything else. But I really like Cathie Wood. I think she's really smart. So even though I don't agree with her necessarily, I just like her, think she's really smart. I invested in Ross Gerber's ETF, GK. just because I really like Ross. I think he's really smart. I don't agree with him on everything, but I like him. I bought some of his ETF. No, Tesla will not do vacuum cleaners. Thoughts on Amazon Zoox? I don't think we know enough about Zoox to know enough to say whether it's going to go anywhere. That's the problem with Zoox. Is like, does anybody know anything about Zoox? Michael Whitfield, do you think Tesla could charge 50% more during peak hours to other brands for supercharging? They very clearly said that they are already charging more for peak hours in some situations. I don't think that's just to other brands. I think they will charge Tesla owners more during peak hours, and you will get a notice on your app that if you want to charge at a particular time, that it's going to cost this much more, and you will quickly learn when it's lower cost to charge. And it's actually, they said the issue isn't the electricity, the issue is the time using the charger, that they want people to charge when it's not loaded with people, so that they what can be the biggest, I think I've answered all that. Let's go back down to the, sorry, I'm just checking the new comments. DX242, you have been timed out because you keep asking the same question over and over again. No, they're not making a vacuum cleaner. If I see you asking it again, you're going to be hidden from the chat. You're not going to be able to comment on the videos or comment in the chat again. Just so people understand that if you ask the same question over and over again and it's annoying, and you miss the fact that I answered the question, you keep asking the same question over and over again, that is not appropriate participation in the chat, and there will be consequences. I don't like doing that, and normally Mark Plott in particular, and thanks to the moderators Jim, Carl, and Mark, the ones that I see right now, if you don't behave in the chat, Mark's going to nail you, but I will nail you worse if I see it. Warren Buffett said he would never buy Apple or Tesla and doesn't understand tech. He doesn't care if he misses the boat. Yeah, I mean, Warren Buffett doesn't get it. You know, it's what kills me, like politically speaking, is certain group of politicians have been bashing Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson for space travel and all this stuff. Warren Buffett is invested in some of the worst industries. If you're a big believer in climate, you know, I'm not that big of a believer in climate change. I still think that the oil industry is bad for the environment and all this stuff. Warren Buffett invests in all the bad stuff, and they don't go after him at all because he says what they want him to say when they want him to say it. Boring tunnel for the Grapevine Mountain Pass north of Los Angeles along I-5 always backs up. I think there's a lot of applications for boring tunnels in all kinds of places, and I think we need to stop thinking of the boring tunnels as something to help with a particularly bad traffic area, and like to solve a traffic jam at one location, and start thinking about it as a whole system approach. In regards to the future of batteries, does Tesla think recycled lithium is cheaper than mining lithium? I think that the answer to that question is that recycling lithium from battery cells in the long run will be cheaper. That recycling minerals, lithium and other minerals from battery cells will be more cost effective than mining the minerals from mining and processing the minerals, because the materials in the battery cell are much more pure than the materials in rock. Or in clay or whatever they're in. So it's much easier to get the useful material out of a battery cell than it is to get it out of the ground. Much easier, much less expensive. There just aren't enough battery cells to be recycled yet to make that make sense at scale. Thoughts on having charging lanes built into highways so cars could charge while moving via magnetic induction? I don't think that makes sense, and I don't think it's necessary. I don't think we need that, and I think it would be a very, very high infrastructure cost to do that. I will say that I spoke with a key player at Tesla, and he said they were considering doing induction charging like in your garage, that they might move to induction charging, that would facilitate something I've always made fun of, vehicle to grid, that using induction charging might make vehicle to grid more viable. Do I think Ford upped their guidance when they heard the Cybertruck would be 2022? I don't pay that much attention to Ford, so I don't know what guidance you're referring to. With FSD, it would be nice if you could let your car charge autonomously. What are your thoughts on that? I think it's very likely that robo-taxis will be able to charge autonomously. Either they will drive to a charging station and charge on an induction charger, which means there's a thing in the ground that it pulls over and that charges the battery without having to plug in, or there will be a robo-charger, or there'll be somebody running around, paid by Tesla to run around the station and plug vehicles in and unplug them. And while he's out there, he's checking to make sure the vehicles are okay. Will Tesla sell FSD to other EVs? I think so, but it's going to be really expensive, so I'm not sure. Do I think Dojo will help find cures for disease? I think Dojo could help train neural networks to help find, that are working to find cures for. I don't think Dojo itself will find cures for disease, but I think Dojo could be used as a training computer for training the types of neural networks that are trying to cure diseases. I think same thing for like Neuralink, for helping Neuralink to understand how the brain functions and helping Neuralink to figure out how to communicate into the brain. That's going to be in my video about Neuralink. How can we convince Elon to make HVAC? I don't think we have to convince Elon to make HVAC. I think he already wants to make HVAC. It's a question of getting other things out of the way so that the team that he can get enough engineers who have time to put that time into making. I mean, I would think the people who have made HVAC for Model Y, the engineers behind it, should be free now to work on that. So maybe they are working on it. I don't know. Rob says, isn't induction charging very inefficient? I don't know the answer to that. All I can tell you is somebody very highly placed at Tesla told me they were looking at it. So if that's true, then he probably thought it was reasonably efficient. Do I think the Ford Lightning will be successful? I think it will. People will buy it. I don't think they will produce it at scale. I don't think that Ford is ready to produce the Mach-E or the Lightning at scale. I think that it just fundamentally, they're going to lose money on every one. The more they make, the more money they lose. When do I expect Tesla to reach full autonomy? By the end of this year. By the end of this year. 2021. Early 2022, maybe. Gordon was seen outside my house cutting my internet cable. It's not the cable, it's actually a piece of equipment in the garage. And he can't get in. When will the Matrix be ready? It's already ready. We're in it. Check my channel for this shirt, What's Outside the Simulation. And I just put up another shirt. I think it's at the bottom. This shirt's at the very bottom of the screen for some reason. It's NPC. It's an NPC shirt. I got a few shirts about two shirts about the simulation. Yeah, while I'm at it, thanks for bringing that up. Check out elonbits.com. You got the stainless steel water bottle. You got the machine that builds the machine shirt. You got a whole bunch of other shirts. I wish they would do hats. The service I use doesn't do. I love baseball caps. Then you wouldn't have to see my bald head. Is Tesla going into food? No, Tesla's not going into food. Will another stock split help the unit value down and thus more affordable for private investors? I don't think it's a big deal. I understand that some investors want to buy stock at lower price. I think it's a small issue. Will there be another stock split? Probably. Elon seems to like stock splits. Amazon has never split. I bought Amazon in 2013. They've never split, and it seems like you can buy fractional shares through a lot of brokerages anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Do backhoes and other dirt movers need to move from diesel to electric? Yes, I think that will happen, but that will happen later. What happens first? Joe Biden mentions Tesla, Elon Musk, or the first Cybertruck is delivered. First Cybertruck will be delivered before Joe Biden mentions Tesla or Elon Musk. Absolutely. Should I get shares or leaps? Bruce Burnworth is an advocate for leaps. I am an advocate for shares. I feel I do not understand options well enough to buy them myself. Your call. I think that what is the saying? Wall Street can be irrational longer than you can be solvent. I think the problem with buying options is you think something's going to happen by a certain time and it gets delayed. Tesla will split the stock whenever they split the stock. I don't have opinions on when Tesla should split. I don't think they should waste the time splitting, but Elon understands it better than I do. If he decides to split, he has a good reason for it. I think they should split 420 to 69. What % chance does Tesla 100x in the next decade? So we're at $700 a share now, roughly. 100x would be $70,000 a share by 2030, let's say. I would say there's a 20+% chance that Tesla 100x's in the next decade. It's sort of like, how big do you think the Robotaxi network is the big driver of this? How big will the Robotaxi network be? Will Tesla go all in and stop selling cars and run their own Robotaxi fleet to 100 million vehicles or more? And then there's other things like, how big will Megapack get? How big will solar get? But it's really, the Robotaxi thing is just insanely valuable. What's under SMR's baseball cap? I don't know. When will Starlink IPO? 2 or 3 years. June 2023 leaps too risky or perfect. I can't play the options game. I bought one I bought options once, already regret it, even though it's not too late yet. Should Tesla buy back some of its shares? I think buying back shares might make more sense than dividends, but I don't know. I'm not that guy like who does the what's the right corporate move for that sort of thing. I don't know. What's my vehicle production estimate out of Giga Berlin and Austin this year? This year, very low. Giga Berlin produces a few thousand vehicles. Giga Texas produces 10,000, 20,000 vehicles. I don't see much production this year. It's next year is going to go up, and then I don't know how many. 2022, I have numbers for it somewhere. I think that Giga Texas will produce 100,000 Model Ys and 100,000 Cybertrucks, and Giga Berlin will produce 100,000 Model Ys, something like that in 2022. Do I think they bring back unlimited supercharging? No. I don't think they will bring back unlimited supercharging. No, because they don't want people to crowd the supercharging stations, and if you give people free electricity, then you're giving away money. So Guorong says that the $67 trillion market cap is impossible. Okay, I want you to take a step back, Guorong. I don't know how to pronounce your name, I'm sorry. When you say it's impossible, what do you mean? Why do you say it? Okay, so when I give big numbers, I say Tesla's going to go to a $20 trillion market cap or a $100 trillion market cap. People go, that's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It might be unlikely, but it's not impossible. There's a lot of ways it could happen. We could have really big inflation, and the dollars become worth less. So then there's, $100 trillion is really worth $10 trillion, right? I mean, we could have really bad inflation. There's a lot of ways it could happen, but fundamentally, if they have a 100 million robotaxi fleet, and each robotaxi makes $20,000 a year in profit, that's a $2 trillion profit a year. At a price earnings ratio of 35, you're at $70 trillion. And 35 is a low price earnings ratio for a company that's growing that fast. So there you go. Paul Kelly. Hi, Paul. I am using the internet of, if you see her on Twitter, the name is Audrey. I interviewed her. Her name is Heather Kane. I interviewed her several months ago about cryptocurrency. My neighbor down the street, they have full working internet. Her and her husband let me use their house. We had dinner together last night, and I told them my problem, and they offered. So, Doge Army asked when I think we'll hear about the next generation Gigafactory locations, middle of next year. DXT42, apart from self-driving, what other applications could come from real-world AI? According to James Douma, humanoid robots there's a really big one that he thinks is likely to happen. I think roofing robots. I think home security systems and other security systems that are able to combine the cameras, get a picture of the world, get a real-world AI of what's happening around the building, around the house. And I think we're going to hear stuff at AI Day that we're going to go, oh my God, I never thought of that. I also think applying Dojo or AI training to Neuralink to understand the signals coming out of the brain, to understand the impact of signals sent into the brain. I think anything that's software, anything that's computerized, AI training can do better in the long run. So I believe Tesla will get into nanotechnology. Tesla is already in nanotechnology. If you're not paying attention, Tesla is already in nanotechnology in a big way. Neuralink is massively into nanotechnology. If you look at the device that they use the threads that get inserted into the brain. Sorry. Will Dojo be able to beat IBM's Watson at Jeopardy? No, it is not designed to play games. It is designed to train other computers to do things. Do I think Lucid will mass produce this year? I don't think Lucid will ever mass produce. I think Lucid might deliver a few cars this year. Most likely, I think Lucid will deliver 0 cars this year. As Tesla started working on the $25,000 Model S, 2023 is 1.5 years away. I think there's no question that Tesla has designs in mind for the 2023 $25,000 vehicle or vehicles. I think that they are clearly. I spoke with a different highly placed person at Tesla when I was at Plaid Day. I think I've talked to a couple of people at Tesla. They have they have cars in mind that they're going to do. I specifically talked to somebody about my idea for a single passenger robotaxi vehicle, a small single passenger vehicle. And I was told that is clearly not on their product roadmap. That is nowhere on their product roadmap. So their product roadmap does not extend to a single passenger vehicle at all. And I talked to 2 different people about it at Tesla, and they're not doing single passenger vehicles. So my idea for building a single passenger vehicle is to hit it where they ain't. Hit them where they ain't. But very clearly talking to a different person, they have a product roadmap. So they have things that they are working on that are coming, and that's coming. I'm not particularly interested in interviewing Tesla economists. I think he got a couple things wrong. I don't know that he has anything. I think the people I want to interview are people who have insight that are inside in some way, that have information that I don't have access to. I don't think Tesla economist knows more than I do about anything that I've seen. I majored in mathematical economics and studied economics in grad school. What does Tesla economist know that I don't know? And I don't think the interviewing somebody who I agree with on everything gets us anywhere, or agree with too much. It's interviewing people who know stuff you don't know. It's interviewing people who disagree with you and why did they, like I want to do an interview with Dave Lee. I want him to interview me or me to interview him about the idea of an X.com holding company. Dave Lee loves that idea. I think it's not that I hate the idea, I just don't think it's going to work. Grow ND says, Warren, isn't a bus cheaper compared to a 1 or 2 person car? So a larger vehicle costs more than a smaller vehicle. A larger vehicle carrying more people costs less per person. But most rides are 1 person going from point A to point B, and single passenger EVs can be done so cheaply and they're much more convenient than buses. So I think there are definitely applications for buses. If you're going from city A to city B, then a bus carrying 20 people is going to be a lot more efficient than 20 single passenger EVs. But if you're driving around town and this person wants to go from here to there and this person wants to, it's hard to make the bus work in a convenient manner. Would I interview Sawyer Merritt? I would interview Sawyer Merritt, but what are we going to talk about? Sawyer and I agree on everything. I love Sawyer. If you can get Sawyer to come on my channel, but I got to know what we're talking about first, because Sawyer and I talk almost daily on Clubhouse. We agree on almost, as far as I can tell, we agree on almost everything. We'll occasionally disagree on something. But I think Sawyer is wonderful, and I would love to talk to him on YouTube. I just don't know what we're talking about that's going to be interesting, because we agree on everything. It's not that great when you do an interview where you agree on everything. It's great when you're learning from somebody who knows something you don't know. I mean, maybe I would love to interview him about his company. That would be a cool thing to talk about. He's got a company producing some kind of clothing. That would be cool. George Holtz, if somebody can get George Haas to come on my channel, I would interview George in a second. I would drop everything to interview George. Will Tesla eventually do electric trains, buses, etc.? Tesla will do an electric minibus, yes. CM asks, is my $25,000 share price by 2026 include power walls and storage? Yeah, I mean, but the big driver of the $25,000 share price is Robotaxi. Any model, you go out far enough in my models, you get out to 2026, you get out to 2030, the upper models always include Robotaxi, and Robotaxi swamps all other, Megapack could be significant in some of my models because it's such a big revenue item and there's such a big demand for it. The 1-seater will be a 4-wheel vehicle, period. Not going to be 1-wheel, 2-wheel, 3-wheel, it's a 4-wheel vehicle. It's like a go-kart. It's somewhere between a go-kart and a golf cart. Only different. My view on Tesla making HVAC, I want one. ElonBits.com for merch. My house has old air conditioning units. One of them is arguably in need of repair or replacement already. I would love to see Tesla introduce HVAC as soon as possible, so I would buy. We have 2 HVAC units on our house that are 3,000 ton or 3,500 ton. I forget how you measure them, whatever. 3 ton, 3.5 ton. I forget how they measure them. And I would love to replace them with Tesla HVAC. Absolutely. 100%. Love the idea. Let's see. I'm just looking to see what questions I haven't answered yet. If you have questions, put them in the chat. Will Elon get into genetics, altering colonist genes living throughout the solar system in low gravity without Earth magnetism? Damien, that's a really good question. I don't think Elon's going to get into that. Elon did say he's interested in genetics. I think that there's a harsh reality we have to face, that Elon is 50 years old. and he probably has about 25 useful years left, maybe 30. I don't know how long lived the men are in his family. Maybe Neuralink helps him go along further. But I think we've got to recognize there's a window, and we need other people to step up and be like Elon. So I think altering genes to live in low gravity is an interesting idea. I think that's a real challenge. I don't know if you've seen this, Damien, but I have a video where I talk about what I call gravity loops, where you do boring tunnels on the moon or Mars, and you just have like an electric train or whatever driving around in a loop that's generating centrifugal force or centripetal force, so that you're riding on the train and you're basically experiencing the equivalent of 1G on whatever planet you're on. And you do that for 2 hours a day or 8 hours a day or 16 hours a day or whatever it turns out is needed. And that makes it so that and think in particular, like, what if somebody gets pregnant? What's going to happen to the getting pregnant, to gestation? What potential impact does that have on human babies, in the womb and so on? I think that's a big potential problem. So, having something like, and I don't know that genetic gene research is going to solve that problem. I think the gravity loop idea is a great solution to that problem. Also, you could have O'Neill colonies orbiting in space. That would work. Does Gordon Johnson recommend Lucid or Nikola stock? I haven't seen that. Where is AI Day going to be held? I think AI Day will probably be held in Palo Alto, California. That's where Autonomy Day was. I don't think it's an event for Fremont, but we'll see. Cyber Cabin is on hold for now. I think Cyber Cabin will hopefully happen next year. Oh, will schools teach Elon? That's, a really good question. Will the MBA curriculum? This would be comical because Elon hates MBA. Doesn't hate MBAs. He thinks that the world has too many MBAs. Oh my God, I'm gonna make a T-shirt. The Elon Musk Business School. Elon Musk and Sandy Munro always say there's too many MBAs and not enough engineers. So will Elon Musk's leadership style be studied and copied? Yeah, the MBA programs are going to be teaching how to be like Elon. That's hilarious. Somebody put that in a comment because I'll see it later. I'm going to love that. Elon said he was afraid no one would replace him, but that was a while ago. He hasn't said that. That was something he said a while ago, not something he says now. My biggest concern with robotaxis is how is Tesla going to be able to autonomize all the 30,000 superchargers to date? I don't know if it's necessarily, I don't know if it's needed. I don't think you need to make them autonomous, but if they do, they'll find a way. That won't be that big of a deal. Elon has said that's an easy thing to do. I mean, look, making an autonomous charger is a heck of a lot easier than making a car that can drive through all kinds of traffic. Can I see Tesla go in national and international power utility company? I think that Elon doesn't like going into heavily regulated businesses. So I think it's easier for Tesla to just sell Megapack and solar to people or companies. Storage. I think getting into the utility business is hard. It does seem to me it would make sense, but I don't think they're doing it. I think the chances of Tesla making home HVAC are very high. Will Cyber Cabin have pod bay? I think Elon has said they're going to do HVAC. It's just a question of when. Will Cyber Cabin have pod bay doors? No. Open the pod bay door, Hal. No, the Cyber Cabin will not have pod bay doors. The Cyber Cabin is probably just going to be a steel building. The fantasy idea of Cyber Cabin is gone. How thick is my wallet? I use a very small wallet. I have BJ's coupons in my wallet. Good question. Can oil companies buy and short Tesla shares, or is that illegal? I don't think they can. I don't know. Oh my God, that's funny. And my MBA student son wants me to sell Tesla stock soon, so I can pay his school loans. He said, Dad, nothing goes up 10x. What's wrong with this picture? That's hilarious. Is my wife fully supportive of the pod project? My wife is not fully supportive of anything. Of course not. She's my wife. My wife is reasonably supportive of most of what I do, as much as one can expect of a wife. I don't know enough about the virtual power plant to say anything about that. Have I heard the rumors they will make 1 million power walls next year? I don't think that's the rumor. I think Elon said that they would have a run rate of 1 million power walls a year by the end of 2022. Not that they would make 1 million Powerwalls, but they would have a run rate of 1 million Powerwalls. I think that's in the earnings call, Kira Cars. I have not considered the long-term impact of Tesla virtual power plant in my long-term forecast. I do not believe I understand virtual power plant. I'm not sure that that's a revenue item for Tesla, significant revenue or profit item. I don't know. How was IBM shifted by 1 letter each? I did not know that, Jim. That is a beautiful piece of information. I did not know that. At what price will I stop buying shares? Well, somebody asked me this a different way. When would I sell? So I value Tesla based on what I consider fundamentals. How many cars are they making? How many batteries? How much profit are they generating from robo-taxi, whatever? And I come up with a model of, this is what I think Tesla is worth. What's the price-earnings ratio? And as long as Tesla's value is less than what I think the stock is worth, I'm unlikely to sell a share, and I'm going to continue buying. I mean, if it gets close, then I'm probably going to stop buying. So if I think Tesla's worth $20,000 a share in 2025, and the stock is at $18,000 a share, I'm probably going to stop buying stock. But I'm not going to sell yet because I think it's worth more than $18,000. If Tesla overshoots, if Wall Street goes nuts and starts buying Tesla more than I think, more than, currently they're anti-Tesla, so they hold the stock price down. If Wall Street swings the other way, which is a theory I have, and I think Tesla in my fundamental analysis is worth $20,000 and Wall Street pushes it up to $30,000, then I would sell some stock. Probably wouldn't sell all of it, but I would sell at least some. When use 48 volt DC and flex circuit. I don't know what flex circuit is. 48 volt I think is coming in the next generation vehicle. When the oil companies finally fail, who's going to clean up the mess? I think the mess will probably not be cleaned up, frankly. I think the mess will not be cleaned up. It will just be a mess. Unfortunately, I think that's the way it works. Elon is flooding Starbase with SpaceX workers from elsewhere and flying some in on the private jet. That's possible. Yeah, maybe he flew workers from Canaveral out there. The jet made so many trips back and forth between Starbase and Canaveral. I almost wonder if that was what was going on. Like maybe Elon wasn't making the trip, somebody else was. I don't have a theory about why Gordon Johnson is the way he is. What's the value of Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Boring combined in 2040? I don't go out that far. DXT42. I don't go out that far. Too far for me to think. I can't think that far out. 2030 is my limit. I don't feel like I have enough information to see what's going to change after 2030. And even my 2030 projections are like, boy, that's tough. Starlink market cap. I think Starlink eventually achieves a $5 trillion market cap if all goes well. 1.5 trillion to 5 trillion. I think 5 trillion is possible. I think when they go to 100,000 satellites, let's say. How would I explain the hatred towards Tesla and Elon? Are Tesla Q paid PR agencies? Now you know, and what's the guy's name? Jack Rickard. There's a theory out there that the oil companies in particular, and maybe the car companies, but particularly the oil companies, have so much money at stake. If they can just slow the EV revolution by 6 months, they make like $1 trillion extra. So for them to spend billions of dollars, attacking Tesla, in underhanded ways is well worth it if it saves them $1 trillion. They don't even have to believe they're going to stop Tesla. They just have to delay it. How would you? So I answered that. Let's see. Yeah. Andy says if my numbers are right, I've overcooked my pension. I'll get hit with penal tax rates of tax around 55%. Yeah, my Tesla stock, my personal Tesla stock is in an IRA. We have another family account that's in an IRA. We have some stock that's not in an IRA. Yeah, we're going to get hit pretty hard with taxes, I imagine. But I'm okay with that. If we make a lot of money, I'm okay with paying a lot of taxes. I'd rather not, but whatever came of the Plaid Fire story, it disappeared from the media because it was a fake story, absolutely. When do I think the level 5 self-driving cars will be available? Will it be Tesla? I think it's the end of this year or early next year. Well, I don't use the term level 5, just to be clear. I think the term level 5 is deceptive, and I think it's an unnecessary construct that doesn't help. Level 2, 3, 4, 5 is an unnecessary construct that people like. I don't think it's useful. Bezos landed his rocket booster. Should I buy Amazon now? I think Amazon fell like 7% on Friday, so probably a good time to buy. Buy a shirt, cap a well. Interesting. Mark, if you made a comment like that before, I didn't see it. Buy a shirt, cap a well. I like that thought. They had pictures of employees getting on the aircraft moved from Hawthorne and the Cape 2 days ago prior to GAO decision rejecting protests on lunar lander contract. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely working hard on Starbase, so they probably moved a lot of SpaceX people out to Starbase to get to work. Oh, I am a Dave Lee fan, Art. Art asked if I'm not a Dave Lee fan. I am a Dave Lee fan. I watch a lot of Dave Lee videos, especially as James Dalma interviews. I find Dave a little bit irritating sometimes, just the way he asks questions, but I think he's great. I think he overall does great interviews. I think he's a better interviewer than I am. I talk too much. I subscribe to Dave Lee's channel and I watch a lot of his videos, and I can't say there's a lot of people who I like better in the sense that I probably watch more Dave Lee videos than I watch Rob Maurer videos, and I like Rob more. I like Dave. I think he's great. I just some of the times when he's asking questions, I feel like no, I don't know how to put it. And people probably feel that way when they watch. I know people feel that way when they watch me ask questions. People keep asking about splits. I think Tesla will split when it reaches $42,690 a share, and it will split 100. It will split 100 to 1. I don't have opinion on splits. I don't care about splits. Please don't ask me about splits. Wolf says, I don't think Elon will step down until his mission is accomplished with Tesla. FSD solved, Model Q Compact is ramped up, and Cybertruck up and running. I don't know what the mission is. I think he's got about 5 more years with Tesla. FSD solved is a big part of it. Getting the Robotaxi network up and running and approved. Producing the Model Q, whatever we're going to call the 2023 Compact, in volume. Cybertruck that's going to be relatively easy. I think that a Tesla minibus, I think maybe he moves on to something else, but I think he's got about 5 years, and then Tesla's doing well enough he can walk away and focus on SpaceX and Neuralink. When will carbon sleeve rotors make their way to Model 3 and Model Y? I don't think they will. I think that they are very expensive to make, and I think there's a limit to how. I don't think the value is there. I think carbon sleeve rotors are important for extremely high performance, and I think the future is actually robotaxis do not need to be high performance. I mean, the question would be, do the carbon sleeve rotors make the EV more efficient and use less energy and get more range? And I don't see evidence of that yet. It may be that there's a way of doing that gets a lot more range, and then you can use less batteries, and then it becomes very efficient. DXT42 was one of the people commenting in the chat, or was. Are gears in Tesla's future would allow for a smaller motor? No, I don't think they're going to gears. I think using multiple motors works better. Is it possible they'll go to gears? Maybe, but I don't think so. As in different gears. Let's see. Why not actually put those billions in Tesla in the transition? The whole big oil conspiracy implies those people are really retarded. It's not that they're retarded. They're trying to make as much money as they can and sock it away. I very rarely watch Stephen Ryan, Solving the Money Problem channel. I have watched a couple of videos. I watched one recently, and honestly, every time I watch a video, it's like Stephen is saying something I already believe. If you like watching videos where people keep saying stuff that you already believe in, then those are the channels you watch. I like watching videos where people are saying something I don't already know, or somebody's saying something that's challenging that makes me think. I love watching Lex Friedman. I don't watch enough of Lex Friedman, but I love watching Lex Friedman. I do love watching Dave Lee's channel. I don't watch it. There's not enough time in the day to watch all these videos, right? Did I get my COVID shot? I got the placebo, Art. I'm a placebo. Will we see Tesla HVAC in homes anytime soon? I think Tesla HVAC in homes in the next couple of years, yeah. Where are we? We're like 3 o'clock. Okay. What are my thoughts on the impact and supply cost of lithium? I think that's a limiting factor channel. That's my favorite channel. I would watch that for that question. Can my pod car rotate vertical and be used as personal belongings conveyance? I don't know what you mean by rotate vertical. The pod car idea would be also useful for deliveries, but not, and would be able to carry like 2 suitcases maybe in the current design. Okay, so we're hitting 2 hours, and I have been using my friend's internet and my friend's electricity and all that stuff, and I have a meeting in an hour about my single passenger pod car robotaxi. So I apologize for the audio. I apologize for the relatively poor video quality. I thank everyone for watching. I'm glad to see we still had a lot of viewers and a lot of support. Please, thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden and all my Patreon supporters, please support the channel on Patreon, link in the description below. Check out the merch, the machine that builds the machine, Elon Bits, the Elon stainless steel, elonbits.com, link in the description below. Jim Whitehead, we could talk about that later maybe. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm going to head out and move on to the rest of my day.